Look at how the Mirage 2000 takes down a Russian cruise missile. This is a Ka-101, a long, sneaky, and insanely expensive Russian piece of metal that carries up to 800 kilograms of explosives. But this killer won't reach a Ukrainian city today.
The effectiveness of shooting down enemy drones and missiles on the Mirage 2000 is 98%.
And here's a different Ka-101 flying across another corner of the Ukrainian sky. So in this chase, the good guy role falls to an F-16, racing right behind it.
There is, like a second which lasts for part of life for me.
Yeah, this is a tense chase. But why doesn't the Ukrainian pilot fire a missile the same way the Mirage pilot did? Hold on, friend. You're about to understand everything. That day, the Mirage 2000s and the F-16s shot down at least 10 cruise missiles together. But that was far from everything in the sky. How many missiles can they shoot down in a single sortie? And if these Western fighters are so damn good, why can't they completely shut down the skies over Ukraine? Let's break this down step by step. So, the episode where the Mirage 2000 destroys the Ka-101. Come on, it's worth watching again. Pure beauty. But what exactly is this missile?
This is our main weapon, the Magic II missile. It proved itself extremely effective. It has almost a 100% kill rate.
Magic II is a short-range air-to-air missile, up to 20 kilometers. Its trick is simple: fire and forget. Once the missile's infrared seeker locks onto the target's heat signature, the pilot fires, and then immediately maneuvers away to avoid debris. But here's the problem. Right now, Ukrainian Mirage 2000s usually carry only 2 air-to-air missiles during combat sorties. France seems to be supplying only the short-range Magic IIs.
In my opinion, and also in the opinion of my colleagues, the Mirage 2000 lacks air-to-air missiles with a longer engagement range.
Technically, the Mirage 2000-5 variant delivered to Ukraine can carry more missiles. For example, 4 medium-range Micas. The magic of the Mica is its active maneuvering in the final phase. The missile literally jumps after the target, making sharp angle breaks like a cat hunting a mouse. But Ukraine doesn't have them. So Ukrainian Mirage 2000s take off with a loadout of just 2 Magic IIs. And what about the F-16? Before we jump into breaking down what the American fighter is doing, here's a reminder that we need your like and subscription. Hit it! Because a like is basically a short-range air-to-air missile, and pressing subscribe supports our channel on the long-range run. Thank you. So, let's start with the episode where the F-16 is chasing a Russian cruise missile.
In the morning, we were scrambled to intercept cruise missiles.
When Ukrainian radars detect cruise missiles entering Ukrainian airspace, the duty air defense officer immediately sends target and direction updates to command. Within minutes, the pilot jumps into the flight suit, straps on the vest, grabs the helmet and the map, and runs straight to the jet. During massive Russian strikes, they also target the airfields themselves. So the job is to get the aircraft airborne as fast as possible, because on the ground, it's vulnerable.
GCI led me to the first group of cruise missiles.
GCI, Ground Control Intercept, guides the fighter toward the targets. GCI lets pilots focus on the actual combat task instead of scanning the sky on their own. While the jet is climbing, controllers guide it toward the target over the radio. Because the sky is huge, and the situation changes every second, cruise missiles fly at about 1,000 kilometers per hour, and they maneuver like rabid dogs, trying to mask the direction of the main strike. Look at these flight paths. 4 types of cruise missiles, 2 types of ballistic missiles, and a pile of UAVs. Imagine the state of the air defense operators staring at screens that are just flashing with red marks everywhere. A fighter doesn't just need to catch the missile. It has to get on the correct attack course to lock it. Then another target, and another one. So how many missiles can an F-16 intercept? You're about to be unpleasantly surprised. You've seen those photos of the F-16 in beast mode. Looks sick. But that's an advanced loadout for jets equipped with amber racks, advanced missile and bomb ejector racks. Ukrainian pilots can only dream of those F-16s. Their jets usually carry 4 air-to-air missiles, 2 medium-range AIM-120 AMRAAMs, and 2 short-range AIM-9 Sidewinders, mounted on the wing stations. And that's it. And here's what happened that day.
I did my best, and I shoot down 4 missiles by my 4 missiles. I saw all the splashes. I watched that like in a movie. When I reported to GCI that I'm empty, he led me to my combat patrol area.
4 out of 4. Perfect. But that's a drop in this ocean of danger. And that's exactly what happened.
Instantly, I got some information that there is new 2 more cruise missiles.
The guy decides to try taking them down with the gun. The M61A1 Vulcan is a 6-barrel, insanely fast aircraft cannon. It's like a small dragon that wakes up only when it needs to put a final full stop in an air battle. Listen to that roar. A crescendo of fire and lead. A quick burst turns a Shahed into wood chips. But can you take down a cruise missile with this thing?
And we were also trained in US as well to do that on our simulators, and as well theoretically on our lectures. I said to my GCI that I'm ready to intercept these 2 cruise missiles.
The problem is that to pull off this trick, you have to close in to about 500 feet. That's why the Ukrainian pilot is literally chasing the missile in these frames. On top of that, he had to pick the right moment, so the falling debris wouldn't crash into residential buildings. But the guy pulled it off. The missiles were destroyed with the cannon, confirmed by GCI. So what does the Mirage 2000 use when its 2 missiles are already spent? Its armament also includes 2 internal 30mm GI-AT-30 cannons. This weapon is pretty unique in its class. It's not a 6-barrel monster like the Vulcan, but it makes up for that with a very heavy and very fast round. Each projectile can deal serious damage even with just 1 or 2 hits. But the main thing is this. Because the GI-AT-30 fires a more powerful round, the Mirage 2000 pilot doesn't have to get nearly as close as an F-16 pilot. The French fighter can engage targets at distances up to 5,000 feet. And here's one more thing. These 30mm rounds have high explosive power and can set an IFV or an APC on fire, destroy unarmored targets, smash dugouts, or shred light vehicles on the ground. Meaning the Mirage 2000 can also work ground targets with its cannons. Not bad at all. French jets can also carry far more powerful high-precision air-to-ground weapons, namely the AASM Hammer guided bombs. Ukrainian forces already have experience using these bombs from other platforms. There are also Scalp EG/Storm Shadow cruise missiles. Experts think French jets can be adapted to carry these long-range missiles, just like Ukrainian Su-24Ms are using them now. They can also carry other precision weapons like American JDAM-ERs. But for now, Ukrainian Mirage 2000s are mainly working as air defense fighters. And what about the F-16? Unlike the Mirage 2000, the F-16 delivers a much wider range of capabilities, including very effective strikes on ground targets.
Right now, we're only able to strike at tactical depth, but the effectiveness of those strikes is very high.
JDAMs, Joint Direct Attack Munition, have a range of 24 to 45 kilometers, and JDAM-ERs, extended range, can reach up to 72 kilometers. Their reach allows pilots to strike without entering the enemy's air defense engagement zone. F-16s can also carry American Precision GBU-39s aka SDBs, small diameter bombs, with a maximum flight range of up to 110 kilometers when released from high altitude. It's known that F-16 pilots have already struck more than 300 ground targets, destroying hundreds of enemy vehicles, command posts, UAV control hubs, ammunition depots, and logistics nodes. You can check out more about the F-16's ground missions in Ukraine in our other video about this fighter. But right now, you're going to learn why these Western jets still can't completely seal Ukrainian airspace against cruise missile attacks. So, to fully close the skies over a country as large as Ukraine and provide real sustained resistance to Russian threats, Ukrainian officials and military experts estimate that the country would require from 128 to 200 multi-role fighters. What does Ukraine have? The exact number of jets currently inside Ukraine isn't disclosed for security reasons, but some figures are known. The coalition of countries, the Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, promised Ukraine around 85 F-16s in total. Less than half have been delivered so far. France planned to transfer up to 20 Mirage 2000s. But according to various reports, Ukraine has received no more than 6 of these jets for now. and even the ones Ukraine already have are constantly at risk.
This is already our third airfield this week. The enemy keeps trying to destroy our equipment.
Ukrainians are the first in the world to use the Western ACE concept, agile combat employment, in real combat conditions. The idea is simple. When there is a threat, fighter pilots must quickly relocate across multiple airfields. On enemy radars, this maneuver should look like chaos. But it's easier said than done, because a fighter jet isn't just fuel and missiles. First of all, it's technical personnel who handle full maintenance and flight prep. That's why Ukraine developed unique mobile service complexes for F-16s. These complexes include workshops for full weapons prep for F-16s, a flight control station, a living module for the team, and a logistics vehicle. Specialists can move across the country and service the jets wherever they are at the moment. Pretty damn cool. But these specialists can't service Mirage 2000s, so we expect more specialized service modules to appear. This aircraft zoo makes life much harder for the Ukrainian Air Force, because the MiGs and Sus that were in Ukraine before the Russian invasion are still flying and still performing a huge portion of missions. And now there are rumors about giving Ukraine Gripens and Rafales. And you can't say no to those either. That's a real logistical nightmare. Write in the comments which fighter looks more modern and more reasonable for Ukraine, the Gripen or the Rafale, or give your own pick. Thank you. Track or wheels?
Tracks.
Yes, a lot of people think a tank on wheels is the same as putting a locomotive on skis.
The best tank? That's the B-1 Centauro.
And there's no contradiction here. The B-1 Centauro, it's not some Italian stunt. If a tracked tank is a bear, then the wheeled B-1 Centauro is a wolf, but this beast loves good weather.
For the B-1 Centauro, scorching heat and dust are better than rain and mud.
Of course, wheels lose to tracks on heavy off-road terrain. That's why we won't compare the Centauro to a classic tank. But it's not the only wheeled tank on the front line. The AMX-10, the French toy, also runs on wheels.
As for the wheels, driving the AMX-10 is basically the same as driving a truck, except you've got levers instead of a steering wheel.
Seems like this AMX-10 driver isn't telling us everything, but you'll find out more about the French vehicles handling a bit later. The Italian and French tanks are now fighting somewhere around Pokrovsk, and it's very, very hot there. Well then, it's the perfect moment to compare them, and at the same time figure out which gun is better, the French one or the Italian one. How do Ukrainians actually use wheeled tanks? And does the whole concept of a wheeled tank really make sense? So let's start with the guns, because both of these machines found themselves in conditions where the gun plays first fiddle. You'll see why in a moment. The Centauro B-1 and the AMX-10 both have 105mm guns. But behind that number hide two completely different philosophies, and two different ideas of how a wheeled combat vehicle should fight. Take a look at what the French one fires. Oops, they blurred out the type of ammunition. Time to switch to Detective Poirot mode. Take a closer look at the markings VO 1400 and VO 800. This is the ballistic designation for muzzle velocity, measured in meters per second. And the French are one of the few who print this characteristic directly on the shell. So, the AMX-10 uses exclusively French ammunition that is not interchangeable with standard NATO shells. So what exactly are these shells? We don't keep secrets from you, so we're counting on your loyalty. Hit that like button right now, because it helps our stats. Thank you. So, OFL is an acronym from the French obus flèche, which means arrow shell. In reality, this is the French variant of the APFS-DS round, armor-piercing, fin-stabilized discarding sabot. Rumor has it that it can penetrate the frontal armor and turret of Soviet T-55s and T-62s at distances up to 2,000 meters. Modern tanks? Forget it. It won't penetrate even point blank. Well, unless you sneak up on it and hit the side or the rear. But to do that, you'd have to jump right into the enemy tank's line of sight and get your ass handed to you. That's exactly why Ukrainian crews use other ammunition and a different tactic. Let's start with the shells.
Most often we use heat rounds, and smoke rounds have also worked great.
OFUM are exactly the shells you saw in the ammo rack. These are smoke rounds, whose main purpose is to create a smoke screen to mask the movement of friendly forces or conceal their positions from enemy observation. But Ukrainians use them against infantry.
When it hits the target, it forms a smoke screen, so the enemy can't understand where the fire is coming from.
The destructive power of the OFUM shell is lower compared to high explosive rounds. Its main danger lies in its incendiary effect and the smoke, which makes breathing and visibility much more difficult.
Стоїмо по укриттям противника.
We work on shelters where enemy infantry hides, so that after us our drone operators can do their job.
Ukrainians use the following tactic. They fire a series of incendiary rounds at the target to ignite the forest and force the enemy out of underground shelters, and then they send in kamikaze drones. So, the AMX-10's gun once allowed it to fight tanks using a maneuver-fire-maneuver tactic. Today, the gun's capabilities are mostly enough only for fighting infantry, but Ukrainians discovered other abilities hidden in this gun. They fire the AMX-10's gun at distances up to 7 kilometers. That's 3.5 times farther than the manufacturer intended. How? Watch. If you elevate the barrel to a high angle, the shell flies on a long arc and goes much farther, even beyond direct line of sight. This technique is called indirect fire. The thing is, the AMX-10's gun has a rifled barrel, which gives the shell excellent flight stability. Boom. And a few seconds later, the enemy gets a present. And what about accuracy? Look, they use a bustle, just like real artillerymen. If you have the target's coordinates, the rest is simple. Boom. And the enemy goes straight to heaven. So yes, the AMX-10 can still be useful even in a modern war. What matters is having a good head on your shoulders, a solid rifled gun, convenient controls, and the right ammunition. And what about the gun on the B-1 Centauro? It is also equipped with a rifled 105mm gun called the Canon OTO Malera 105/52 LRF. You may have seen a similar gun, just from another manufacturer. On the Leopard one, we have several videos on our channel where Ukrainians share their impressions of this tank, and especially its gun. If you missed any of them, subscribe. We release new videos about Western weapons on the battlefield several times a week. So, unlike its French counterpart, the B-1 Centauro can use all standard NATO 105mm ammunition. But even among that list, there are favorites.
Автомат.
Favorite shell? Hesh.
HESH stands for High Explosive Squash Head. How does it work? Not at all the way you imagine. A HESH round has a soft nose. When the shell hits armor, it does not penetrate it. Instead, the explosive charge splatters across the armor like a thin pancake on a frying pan. A moment later, detonation occurs. And that's when the most interesting part happens. From the inside of the armor, chunks of metal break off and turn everything inside the tank into mush. The equipment, the crew, the internal mechanisms. And at the same time, the armor itself remains intact on the outside. So the HESH round doesn't punch a hole, but after a slap like that, the tank basically loses its teeth. But the 105mm HESH fired from the Centauro B-1's gun is practically no threat to modern tanks. The reason is simple. The entire concept of HESH relies on transmitting a shockwave through solid steel armor. But explosive reactive armor, which detonates on impact, completely neutralizes the effect, preventing the HESH round from forming its explosive pancake on the armor surface and blocking the entire mechanism that makes HESH work. So it goes. But then why does this Ukrainian Centauro operator highlight HESH among all other types of ammunition? Most likely because HESH, thanks to its shock effect, destroys fortifications extremely well, especially concrete structures. And on top of that, it remains effective against all kinds of light armored vehicles. So the B-1 Centauro in Ukraine is not participating in battles against modern tanks. Its tactic is the same as its French counterpart, hit and run, but the Italian machine does it slightly better. The reason is that the Centauro's gun is a high-pressure cannon with a longer barrel, L52. What does that give you? A longer barrel means the projectile accelerates for a longer time. Higher pressure means the projectile flies faster. Higher projectile velocity means greater effective firing range. So, just like the AMX-10, the B-1 Centauro can also fire from indirect fire positions, but at a much greater range, up to 16 kilometers. This means the Italian crew can work from a much longer distance compared to an AMX-10 crew, and have an extra 3 to 5 minutes to leave the position before an FPV drone arrives. And if it does arrive, then the protection of the B-1 Centauro and the AMX-10 is almost identical. The armor only stops .50 caliber rounds, but the Italian machine is noticeably heavier, 25 tons versus 17 tons. So why doesn't that extra weight translate into more protection? First, the Italian vehicle is 1.5 meters longer. Second, its gun is heavier, but you'll be surprised. The extra weight does not affect the Centauro's speed, because its Iveco engine produces 512 horsepower, while the French engine gives only 300 horsepower. That's why both the heavy B-1 Centauro and the light AMX-10 can accelerate on good terrain to the same top speed, up to 100 kilometers per hour. Neither vehicle likes heavy off-road terrain, but on firm ground, the B-1 Centauro is basically a Lamborghini with a cannon. It even has a steering wheel. But the main thing is that it uses an 8x4 wheel configuration, and at low speed, the last axle engages and gives a rear steering effect, just like in sports cars. And what about the AMX-10? Look, It turns like a real tank, meaning its turning radius is 0. But that tank-like steering limits agility at speed, so you can't quickly dodge a mine or a pothole. And on top of that, it has levers instead of a steering wheel, which only complicates driving. But the French machine does have two interesting tricks. The first is its hydropneumatic suspension. This system allows the driver or commander to adjust ground clearance and also tilt the hull forward, backward, or sideways. On rough forest terrain, this helps it deal with obstacles. The second feature is its ability to swim. Before entering water, a special splash shield rises on the front of the hull. On water, the AMX-10 moves thanks to 2 water jets installed at the rear. Its maximum water speed is about 7 kilometers per hour. However, the modernized version, the AMX-10 RCR, which received additional armor, lost its amphibious capability because of the increased weight. Ukraine received both the basic and modernized versions, but all of them now have extra protection against drones, which means we won't see swimming AMX-10s in this war. But what we could have seen is a duel between the Italian and the French machine somewhere in the Ukrainian steppe. A few years ago, Russia was actually planning to buy a batch of B-1 Centauros and Freccia APCs for its army. For 2 years, they tested the Italian armor, but eventually abandoned the idea, most likely because of the wheeled chassis and the limited armor. Wheeled tanks have limited mobility in rough terrain and weak armor. But the war in Ukraine shows that the thickness of a tank's armor is not a guarantee of survival on the battlefield. At the same time, high speed and maneuverability make it possible to use the much safer hit-and-run tactic, which has become essential for both sides. Write in the comments whether, in your opinion, high speed can compensate for limited mobility and thinner armor. Or maybe tanks no longer have a place on the modern battlefield at all, and it's better to have a self-propelled gun instead of a tank. Curious to hear your take on this in the comments.
This isn't the American M270 MLRS, but its German version, the so-called Mars 2.
Visually, distinguishing the Mars 2, which translates from German as medium artillery rocket system from the basic American M270, is indeed pretty damn hard. However, there are more differences between the copy and the original than meets the eye. Where does the Mars 2 outperform the original? Where does it fall short? And how does that impact its effectiveness? Why do they hand out Hero of Russia stars for destroying an M270? And which of them can survive a nuclear strike? That's exactly what you're about to find out. So, Ukraine received only 5 Mars 2 units. Oops! Now, there are only 4 left. This is just about the only video where a Mars 2 gets hit. Yet the Russian side claims 45 destroyed German systems. That's more than the Bundeswehr even has in stock. No comment, as they say. Sorry. Here are 2 more Mars 2s. They're being hauled to Germany for repairs. Did they return to the battlefield? Unknown. But
we are working and continue destroying the enemy.
In any case, the Mars 2 is the rarest and most mysterious MLRS on the front. The only thing rarer might be this hybrid, consisting of a BMW 7 Series and an MLRS. Before we start the main story, subscribe to our channel and you'll see even crazier wonders than this. So, the BMW-based MLRS is impressive, but it surely can't compare to the Mars 2 in range.
According to the tactical technical specs, the Mars 2's maximum range is 84 kilometers.
Right now, that range doesn't offer total safety for the crew, because modernized versions of Russian Lancets demonstrate the ability to hit targets at a distance of no less than 70 kilometers. And this is exactly what forces Ukrainian crews to literally dissolve the Mars 2s into the terrain immediately after a salvo. If it weren't for the tactics the Ukrainians use, we would have forgotten about their existence entirely. Here's how a mission usually goes down. A Mars 2 never heads to a firing position alone. Up front, a pickup. In the back, a pickup. At the right moment, the convoy halts. The pickup up front blocks the road. The pickup in the rear does the same. Nobody goes anywhere. Everyone waits while the Mars 2 does its work. Usually, it's a couple or 3 launches. In about 150 seconds, the rockets reach the target. Thanks to their high speed and steep flight trajectory, Mars 2 rockets are an extremely difficult target for enemy air defense systems, since the time from launch to impact is minimal. But is 3 rockets enough to destroy a target?
Regarding accuracy, it's plus or minus 7 meters.
The Mars 2 is equipped with the European Fire Control System, developed by Airbus and Krauss-Maffei Wegmann. It entered service in 2011. meaning this is a very modern system that allows for precise control of every single rocket. And instead of hydraulic drives, it's got an electric launch drive system installed, faster, and requiring less maintenance. However, the Mars 2 uses only 2 types of ammo. Imagine a weapon that costs nearly $1 million, built for just 2 rockets. Maybe there's some super cool secret stuff? The M30 and M31 rockets belong to the GMLRS family, Guided Multiple Launch Rocket System. Yeah, these are high-precision guided rockets with a 227mm caliber. But is that kind of loadout enough for modern warfare? Let's start with the M31. The rocket pack's only a 90-kilogram warhead, yet it possesses colossal destructive power. Its effect comes down to 3 factors. First off, the rocket has a tough steel body and strikes the target at a near 90-degree angle at hypersonic speed. So it literally punches through earthen berms and reinforced concrete ceilings. That means an underground bunker or warehouse isn't a safe haven, because the explosion, which happens right inside the facility, destroys the supports, leading to the collapse of the entire structure. Second, that 90-kilogram warhead generates a massive shockwave. Even if the explosion happens on the surface, everything within a radius of up to 50 meters gets destroyed, even armored vehicles. Third, shrapnel. Although the M31 isn't a specialized fragmentation rocket, upon detonation its steel casing shatters into thousands of heavy, jagged fragments that tear through everything in their path up to 100 to 150 meters from the epicenter.
We hit enemy manpower, vehicles, ammo dumps, command posts. These are surgically precise strikes with maximum effectiveness.
Of course, against manpower, a cluster warhead works better, but the Germans banned themselves from using such munitions and even signed the corresponding convention. It's a bit strange because the other rocket the Mars 2 uses instead of the Cluster 1 is hard to call any more humane. It's the diabolical M30, packing 180,000 tungsten balls. If a high explosive warhead is a hammer blow and cluster munitions are a scatter of rocks, then the M30 is a steel rain that shreds infantry, artillery crews, trucks, radar stations, and light armored vehicles. The M30 detonates in the air, above a designated point, and in that instant, instead of a single concentrated explosion, a dense downpour of steel is unleashed. So where's the humanity in that? It's simple. Unlike cluster munitions, the M30 doesn't have bomblets that might fail to detonate and lie in wait for years. In other words, humanity here is primarily about responsibility for what happens after the war. Hit the like button if you also think this approach is the right one. However, the American M270 looks like a more flexible system because it can operate both as a high-precision weapon and as a traditional MLRS that churns up several hectares of terrain in a single salvo.
Yeah, we've been working much more intensely, especially lately, because the enemy is pushing from all directions.
The M270's role is so high that they grant the title of hero in Russia for destroying a single M270. It all comes down to the ammo variety. It is essentially a platform defined by what it's loaded with. That's exactly why the Ukrainians are blurring out the rockets in this footage. But you can identify them by the aftermath. The first munitions for the M270 were the M26s, cluster rockets containing hundreds of submunitions for the mass destruction of infantry and vehicles. One M270, with no exaggeration, is capable of blanketing an area, halting an offensive, and denying any further advance. Here's what's left after a strike like that near Pokrovsk. If you want to be even more precise, the M270 slings the exact same M30 and M31 rockets that the Mars 2 fires, meaning the M270 can replace the Mars 2, but the Mars 2 can never replace the M270. Because if you need to drop a rocket right down the Russian's collar, the M270 gets loaded with ATACMS ballistic missiles with a range of up to 300 kilometers. This gives you the ability to hit some very juicy targets. True, you can only load one missile instead of a pod with 6 GMLRSs. But 2 missiles are enough to completely wipe out a Russian recon drone operator's command post, just like in this footage.
When the others can't get the job done, our rocket flies.
Besides that, the American M2070 can fire precision strike missiles, which have a range of 500 kilometers. But the modernized M270A2 versions, which underwent the upgrade for the new missiles, aren't being supplied to Ukraine just yet. This modification only recently started entering mass service with the US Army and deploying in Europe. However, precision strike missiles are fully compatible with the M142 HIMARS that are fighting in Ukraine. But these modern missiles also aren't being delivered to the front yet, so we can't say anything about their real combat performance. But we do have a video on our channel about the daily combat grind of the HIMARS, so we won't dwell on these systems in detail, but we'll continue with the differences between the Mars 2 and the M270. So, the Mars 2 and M270 sit on the tracked chassis from the Bradley 1FV, which stubbornly drags the machine to places where wheels have no business being. Churned up fields, wet soil, tank ruts, tree lines. But this isn't just a turretless Bradley, it's a distinct vehicle, because a special elongated M993 platform was developed for the MLRS, consisting of proven components: engine, transmission, suspension, tracks, and the general logic of the armor. Here is the result. First off, the missile chassis is significantly longer and has 8 road wheels on each side instead of 6 like on the Bradley. This is necessary to evenly distribute the weight of the massive launcher and ensure stability during a salvo. Second, the engine and transmission are located under the crew cab, and the cab itself is much wider than on a Bradley, seating 3 people in a row: commander, gunner, and driver. But why is the German Mars 2 1.8 tons heavier than the American M270? If you want to test your intuition, hit pause and write your guess in the comments. And now for the official info. The weight increase of the German MLRS happened partly due to the electric drives installed instead of hydraulics. But what weighs even more is the better protected aluminum cab module, which features ventilation and an overpressure system. Thanks to this, dirty air, dust, toxic gases, and even radioactive particles after a nuclear strike can't get inside the cab through the cracks. That's not all. The Mars 2's armored glass, capable of withstanding bullets and high-speed shrapnel, adds another few dozen kilograms. And the Mars 2's mine protection adds another few hundred kilograms. A reinforced hull bottom protects the crew from blasts by anti-personnel mines and light IEDs. The M270 doesn't have this. But neither the Mars 2 nor the M270 can survive a blast from a TM62 anti-tank mine. Nor can they withstand a hit from an RPG or a Lancet, and their rocket pods are equally protected only by a light aluminum box. A large chunk of shrapnel, or a 12.7mm, can damage the rocket inside the pod, making a launch impossible or dangerous. That's exactly why crews meticulously camouflage their vehicles. The exact number of M270 MLRSs provided to Ukraine is unknown, because the total count includes 6 units of the French LRU modification, Lance Roquettes Unitaires. Distinguishing them from the M270 is even harder. Maybe a video on that will appear on this channel in the future.
We're doing a massive job helping our infantry. I think there's a reason they say artillery is the god of war.
You're also doing a big job when you write your thanks, impressions, or requests for future videos in the comments. We read everything.
Over 800 aerial targets are entering Ukrainian airspace. Most of them are heading for the capital. Kyiv is in danger, and air defense today is personally commanded by the commander of the Air Force.
A powerful, massive attack from different sides.
Will Patriot, Franken-Sam, Iris-T, or Skynet repel this gigantic attack? The assault begins with the heaviest weaponry Russia possesses: ballistic missiles. Ukrainian intelligence, supported by the US satellites, data detected the launch, but intercepting these missiles is not easy at all. Having climbed into the upper layers of the atmosphere, these 4-ton missiles begin their descent onto targets in Ukraine. Their speed exceeds the speed of sound several times over, so only one system is capable of handling this type of weapon.
Unfortunately, only Patriot systems operate against ballistics for us, and today, it is also working.
The command and operators have no time to think.
Practically seconds. It's the experience we've gained over these years that's at work.
A Patriot crew opens fire. A $5 million missile is launched to intercept the target. Direct hit. However, the more missiles Russia launches, the harder it becomes to shoot them down.
A lot depends on the operator's work. It's impossible to engage and destroy all targets right now. Even the destroyed targets still fall and detonate somewhere on the ground.
Ukraine's air defense system is using Patriot systems less and less due to a shortage of missiles. Today, not all ballistic missiles are successfully shot down. And for the Air Force, the fight is just beginning. Russian cruise missiles are entering the engagement zone. Some of them, like the Iskander-K, are particularly dangerous due to their specific flight profile. However, against them, Ukrainians have a more potent arsenal. One of the most effective air defense systems in the Ukrainian army enters the fray, Iris-T. This system primarily guards critical infrastructure facilities and does so super effectively.
I have a success rate of 99% of aerial targets engaged.
This is possible thanks to the latest technological solutions that detect Russian missiles hundreds of kilometers away.
The reconnaissance station of this system can detect targets up to 250 kilometers away. The engagement zone of this system, depending on the missile type, can range from 8 to 40 kilometers.
Although Russians are constantly improving their Kh-101 and Kaliber cruise missiles, they are incapable of counteracting the Iris-T. Therefore, one by one, all aerial targets are destroyed. The problem with this system is as mundane as with Patriots, a small quantity. So as soon as Russians spot a gap in air defense, they exploit it. Today, they are not succeeding. The cruise missiles are shot down, but not solely by Iris-T forces.
If cruise missiles are incoming, fighter jets engage.
Fighter jet combat with missiles is a dangerous but important task that deserves a separate video. In a year of combat operations, Ukrainian F-16s have shot down 1,300 aerial targets. Like this video if you want to see it on the channel. However, the battle is just beginning. The most challenging phase of repelling a combined air attack is the Shaheds. These UAVs terrorize Ukrainian cities daily, but today is an absolute record, 810. Ukrainians are preparing to repel all this might with their own air defense assets. Civilians descend into shelters. All possible means rush to firing positions. Work is in full swing at the command post.
Every air defense engagement is a new decision made depending on the situation.
Just some period before this attack, an unexpected attack by Shaheds took place against Poland. However, over there, to shoot down 10 Russian drones, they deployed Polish F-16s, Dutch F-35s, Italian AWACS reconnaissance aircraft, and aerial refueling tankers jointly operated by NATO. Just so you understand, that amount of firepower was used to shoot down a mere 1.25% of the 810 Shaheds currently assaulting Ukrainian airspace. And tonight, to protect Kiev from the Shaheds, some very strange systems are starting combat duty. Frontline needs gave birth to the so-called Frankensams. That's what they call Soviet systems adapted to use Western missiles and radars. Meaning, you get a sort of Frankenstein made from Soviet systems and a surface-to-air missile. Today, they are also carrying out the orders of the Air Force commander. In most cases, we're talking about Soviet Buk SAMs, but the idea of such a hybrid is being implemented on other platforms as well. For example, this OSA SAM, modernized by a Ukrainian charity organization.
We transmit that we found something at such and such location, at such and such range. If the target is within parameters, they give us the command to launch. You turn the key, press the launch button, that's it, and the missile is away.
Target locked, the crew gets the command to launch.
Підрив. Ні. Да, щось падає. Падає, да.
Seeing you subscribe is just as satisfying to us as shooting down Shaheds, so hit that subscribe button. In addition to the Ukrainian-American SAMs, a no less effective British system enters the battle. This is the improvised Raven SAM, equipped with ASRAAM air-to-air missiles. It's equipped with an imaging infrared seeker that forms an infrared picture of the target, so it does most of the work itself.
The Raven SAM is a very simple setup. Here we see just 4 switches and a button, the launch. When engaging in combat work, I select a missile and execute the launch. After that, the missile comes off the rail and reaches the target very quickly.
Obviously, these missiles are higher tech and pricier than the Shaheds. But to repel today's attack, they are needed more than ever. But no matter how many of these SAMs and missiles we have, destroying hundreds of drones requires something else. Cheaper, more effective, simpler. Here, on the outskirts of Kiev, the Gepard enters the game.
This equipment needs an open space without any trees. Otherwise, the radar might give wrong readings. And in this way, we scan the area we are located in.
Armed with 2 35mm radar-guided cannons, the Gepard has long become one of the main tools for destroying Shaheds. The ahead round detonates in the air and peppers the target with a cloud of tungsten sub-projectiles, covering a large area, which is crucial for destroying the target.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
But time takes its toll, and the 50-year-old Gepards break down more and more often. And in conditions of daily work, every downtime costs lives. That's why another German system is joining the defense of the Ukrainian sky, Skynex. It received its baptism by fire in Ukraine and is performing excellently. The same A-head rounds are destroying yet another Shahed. A moment of silence falls. The first wave of the attack has been repelled, but there are many such waves ahead.
Aerial combat lasts 10 to 12 to 16 hours.
So it is definitely not the time to relax.
Keep the missile alert active in the sectors where we are working on the Shaheds.
It's time to show the main player in destroying enemy drones. And it's not high-tech missiles, not anti-aircraft complexes. It's the legendary Browning M2 machine gun.
Target in sight. Distance 17 kilometers. Heading roughly toward us. Getting ready, waiting.
They can only work within a radius of 2 kilometers, so the guys have time to prepare.
We're removing the camouflage, mounting thermal imaging devices, loading the ammo.
The so-called mobile fire groups are working the most actively. There are over 1,500 of them in Ukraine. Machine guns mounted on pickups have just one special feature, a thermal imager.
The thermal imager attaches via quick-release mounts, sets up very fast. You open the eyepiece and lightly turn it on with one button. We also use it to record video confirmation of the shoot-down.
The ammo load is standard too, 12.7 caliber rounds with tracers.
To show other adjacent units where the Shahed is, in case they happen not to be able to spot it visually. Okay, load everything. This is a box of 100 rounds of 12.7, and the Browning machine gun is quite simple and reliable. We've been using it for over a year, and there have been almost no malfunctions.
Another swarm of drones is approaching the capital.
Targets can come in at different altitudes. For Shaheds right now, we've recorded a max altitude of up to 4,800 meters. Aerial targets are marked in red. You can see the quantity already.
Enemy drones are entering the engagement zones of the fire groups. On top of assets on the ground, Ukrainians came up with something else, shooting down Shaheds with the same machine gun, but from a helicopter. This method is more effective, though it requires a team of professional pilots. This method is used both day and night, so the teams usually have little time for rest. The helicopter returns after the mission. The hard night is coming to an end. But one more means of destroying Shaheds was left unnoticed. It is, in fact, an anti-drone drone. In 6 months of using the product called Sting, it has hundreds of Shaheds and Gerbers to its credit.
It's not a magic pill either. It doesn't eliminate every Shahed in the country, but they take out their share of Shaheds.
That share largely depends on the time of day.
A Shahed is harder to detect at night, but when you have general experience working against aerial targets, it's much easier.
These drones fit perfectly into the incredibly motley defense system of the Ukrainian sky. Yet even this is not enough. Tonight, all air defense forces shot down 747 UAVs and several missiles. This means some Shaheds reached their targets, which will impact civilian lives. However, without the work of these people, Russia would completely dominate the Ukrainian sky, which would mean defeat on the ground. The Ukrainian Air Force gains unique experience every day, and destroying such a quantity of targets in just one night testifies to exceptional dedication and professionalism. So today, the Ukrainian sky stood firm, and we are already preparing a new story for you. Thank you for every comment, and we await your wishes regarding future videos. We read everything.
Attention! Launch on the first channel. Launch. Closing in. Target destroyed. Confirmed.
Greetings to all free people. This is Army TV. Today we're visiting the 39th Anti-Aircraft Missile Regiment, and we'll be talking with the crew operating the OSA surface-to-air missile system. This particular system has been modified by Poland. What exactly sets it apart from the old Soviet version? We're about to find out.
Poland replaced the camera on this vehicle. They added a night mode. That gives us the ability to detect and visually assess drones at night. Before, at night, we worked only off radar marks, just blips. Now the camera comes on, night mode activates, and we can clearly see whether it's an Orlan, a Shahed, or just a small reconnaissance bird. They also changed the control system for the antenna launcher unit, the whole top assembly. They added a joystick. And now the deputy chief of the crew can control the entire vehicle alone, directly from inside the cabin, both azimuth and elevation. That lets us switch to combat readiness faster, and also drop back to readiness level 3 faster when needed. Another big change, the encryption unit was replaced. The old Soviet one was removed, and a Polish encryptor was installed.
And what does that give you? What are the real advantages?
We're a bit harder to see. Not dramatically, but it matters. The enemy gets less radar return from us. Lower emission, weaker signal going back to their radar. That gives us an edge.
Can you show us your workstation where the actual control happens? Is it right here?
Yes. Come on, I'll go first.
And this is the joystick you were talking about, right?
Yes, this is the joystick I mentioned. The camera was upgraded. This is the night vision feed. Everything from the camera is transmitted right here to this screen. Here we see the number of missiles, the system readiness status. Here it shows that a missile is ready to launch. It also shows when a target enters the engagement zone. The lower display shows what happens after missile launch. The missile leaves the rail, locks onto the target, enters the guidance beam, and K3 detonates. Target destroyed. Launching the system starts with power and circuit checks. We verify voltage to make sure everything is stable. Once that's confirmed, we bring the machine online and go to work.
You know, you've got a lot of toggle switches in here. I once filmed the Gepard and there everything was labeled in German. Even the crew commander had gone through and hand-labeled things with a marker, just so in a critical moment he could react instantly.
Looks like the Poles did the labeling here.
Yeah, it looks like the Poles labeled this one too. When you receive a combat order, when there's an incoming target, how does your work actually start?
The vehicle powers up, and we're past the target coordinates. This radar up top, the one that's constantly rotating, feeds everything down here as contact points. Those points give us the target azimuth, say 270 degrees, and range, for example, 10 kilometers, about 6.2 miles. We lock that range in. See? Range 10 kilometers per hour, azimuth 270 degrees. That's the target. We see it, a track mark appears. We take it, switch on the camera. We now have azimuth, range, and elevation angle. Elevation is altitude, how high the target is above us. We report it, identify what kind of target we're dealing with. Then we switch to combat mode. We wait until the indicator lights up, launch ready. And then, on the crew chief's command, we turn the key and press the launch button. Support the channel with a like and subscribe.
And that's when the missile goes.
Yes, the launch happens. The missile leaves the rail, separation confirmed. We get lock on, then guidance, medium beam, narrow beam. As the missile closes on the target, the K3 light comes on. That means target destroyed. When it's raining, you have to use moving target selection. That lets us filter out rain and clouds. clean the picture, and see the target better. We once worked during a heavy downpour, real rainstorm. Shaheads were coming in. For about 5 minutes, we couldn't get a solid lock. Then we enabled moving target selection, picked the Shaheads up cleanly, and destroyed them. Closing in, target destroyed, confirmed. There are moments when, after launch, we see the target pulling away, and we're running out of range. Standard engagement range is around 10 kilometers, roughly 10.3 kilometers at the edge. For the system, that's already a control limit. Beyond that, the vehicle is not supposed to fire. But we've had moments where we launched at 10.5 kilometers and destroyed targets at 11 kilometers, 12 kilometers, even 12.5 to 12.9 kilometers. You're not supposed to do that, but there were critical situations when that target was causing serious trouble and it had to be taken out. And in those moments, we pushed the system beyond its limits.
Over the course of your service, how many targets has your crew taken down?
140. 1 Su-series fighter aircraft destroyed, 2 other Sukhois engaged, 2 Orion strike UAVs destroyed, cruise missiles, Shaheads, and various reconnaissance drones. That's just 140 confirmed kills that are officially recorded. At the start of the war, nobody was filming anything. Nobody was recording video. You just put a check mark in a notebook, destroyed, and that was it.
So you're basically the one constantly pulling the trigger and knocking these targets down. What does it feel like when you score a kill? What's going on inside you?
The first 10 kills. Pure adrenaline. Real euphoria. Right now, it's over 160 launches. 140 confirmed destructions.
But still, every destroyed target, it's a rush, right?
Yeah, it's a hell of a rush.
Tell me, how do the Russians actually operate? Do they probe our air defense, try to feel it out?
A lot of fake targets. Electronic warfare is constantly in play. You get a huge number of false returns popping up on the detection screen.
To confuse you?
Yes, but when EW is spoofing, the target doesn't actually move. The blip is there, but it just sits in place. When a Shahed is flying though, it's different. The speed is high, and you can clearly see the track. The mark moves along the azimuth, or you see it closing the distance.
So that's how you tell a real target from a fake one.
These days, what helps the most is the EO/TV channel that came with the Polish upgrades. It shows targets much better than what we had before on the old Soviet version.
There were situations like this. They'd send in 1 reconnaissance drone. We'd shoot it down. Then 2 more would come in. We'd take those out. Then more would follow. They don't really use sophisticated tricks, but they do like to wear you down. Now, this is the operator's workstation. The operator is responsible for locking the target by range. This is the senior operator's position. He's responsible for antenna tuning and detecting the target on the scope. This is the deputy chief's seat. He helps the guys with identification and executes the launch. The commander sits where you're sitting now. He conducts objective control and handles the radio traffic. And this is the driver mechanic's position.
Hello?
This is the most important man we've got. He has to get us in, move us out, maintain the vehicle, start the turbine, start the engine, drive in, reposition, and camouflage the system. He's a rock-solid guy. We had a driver mechanic once. We were in active combat. We launched, destroyed the target, and at that exact moment, we got hit with BM-27 Uragan MLRS fire. Our driver didn't hesitate for a second. He slammed it into gear, laying across the crew chief's position, floored the gas, and drove. Cluster munitions from the Uragan were falling all around the vehicle, and he was still pulling us out. In that position, he drove about 4 kilometers, roughly 2.5 miles, and got us clear. That's the kind of people who save a crew's lives.
How long does someone need to train to work with this system?
We had an operator come to us. He was from a guard platoon, knew absolutely nothing about air defense. They transferred him to us, put him straight into the vehicle. 3 months later, he was already working.
There's nothing impossible here. You can learn anything. The main thing is that people come willing to learn, and we'll teach them.
Welcome. This is the program What's That Barrel on Army TV. My name is Serhiy Lipko. This is Nord, a serviceman of the Special Operations Forces. Welcome. And today we're going to talk about a legendary machine gun, the dream gun, it seems, of every machine gunner, and maybe of every serviceman in general, the Browning. Nord, you've worked with it in real combat conditions. What were your impressions? What can you tell us?
At first, the impressions were mixed, because you had to get used to the machine, as they say. Just like with any vehicle for a driver, or any weapon for a soldier. But after putting in the hours, after training, in actual combat work, it showed itself at its absolute best. Tough, reliable, a huge range of ammunition, simple to maintain. Any serviceman literally needs about 30 minutes to an hour to understand how it works, clean it, and then keep fighting with it.
And once you start working, everything they have starts flying at you.
Yes, of course, from artillery all the way down to small arms fire, FPV drones, anything just to shut it up. Because when it's working, the enemy, even if he technically still has a chance, he just can't lift his head. The whole tree line gets shredded to pieces.
Support the channel with a like and subscribe. This is a machine gun that has 3 firing modes: safe, semi-automatic, and automatic. Not every machine gun out there even has a semi-automatic mode.
That's right.
So how is it set here?
Everything here is dead simple. You just turn the handle. That's it. You're in semi-auto. No complicated manipulations. Everything is accessible. Everything is fast. And even at night, when you can't see a damn thing, it's all done by feel. If you need to put out single shots, you squeeze, then switch to automatic, and you work it in full auto.
How hard is it, in real combat conditions, to swap the barrel? Because if you take an M249, it's literally 2 seconds. But with a weapon this big and heavy...
On the Browning, honestly, it's also very fast. It comes off quickly. This isn't the first model where you have to mess around with complicated steps.
Can it actually be replaced right here? I think we were just sitting on the barrel a moment ago.
Yes, we can replace it. If you're on a firing position and the spare is nearby, it comes off. One barrel out, another one in. Everything gets installed.
You make it look very easy, but from the moment you first pulled it out and dropped it like that, listen to this. We can't transmit the weight of this barrel through the screen, but we can transmit the sound of gravity. Something like this. There's got to be around 10 kilograms, about 22 pounds probably.
This barrel itself weighs 12.7 kilograms. That's about 28 pounds. Depending on the modification, it can go up to 13.5 kilograms, roughly 30 pounds.
You took it off very easily. Mechanically, it really is simple, but it still requires certain skills because, well, at least you see.
If you've been firing, you have to handle it only by the handle, because the barrel will be extremely hot. You rotate it toward yourself, push the barrel forward, pull it out, then slide the new one in.
I suggest that while it's already partially disassembled, we take it further. Not completely, but show what a field strip of the Browning M2 looks like. The barrel is clear. We've removed it. What's next?
Next, we start by removing the rear part of the machine gun, what everyone just calls the backplate. You press one button, then another, the backplate comes off. That's it. After that, you remove the recoil spring. It's no larger than the one on an RPK. Then you cock it using the handle, pull out this pin, and place it right here so it doesn't get lost. That's how most machine gunners working with the M2 Browning do it. Then, to pull out the main working assembly, you press a special spring that locks everything in place. And pull it out directly. This is the bolt assembly. It separates.
All right, it all came apart very easily in your hands. Let me try to put it back together now. I remember how it's done, but
This is where specific skills are needed. Everything has to be done in sync.
yeah, we need synchronization here. So we line everything up at the same time. I honestly don't even know how this is done. Even though we're inserting it,
Yes, with a slight downward tilt. Guide it in. At this moment, adjust this selector flag. It goes in further. Then guide it again, follow the feed tray latch. That's it. It's assembled. All that's left is to insert the recoil spring, the pin, and the backplate.
first, the pin.
Yes, the pin goes straight into its slot. Then you cock it using that pin. After that, you insert the spring. There's a hole in the frame.
That hole is way down in there.
Yes, you insert it. And this pin locks into the hole on the right.
Here it is. It should seat.
It's seated, and all that's left is the rear section. Trigger up, it's in place. That's it.
It's hard to take it apart. There are a lot of parts. It's heavy. And the position isn't comfortable. Down low like this. But in combat conditions, it's faster. The machine gunner is usually lying prone and can disassemble it like that.
Yes, usually.
I suggest we mount this barrel and see how it works.
Yes, of course.
The Browning. One thing everyone knows for sure, it's extremely loud. So we definitely need to put on hearing protection.
Yes, I'd recommend it. It's going to be very loud.
Can I try a few shots under your supervision?
Yes, of course.
I assume it's the same as with any machine gun. We open the cover, carefully lay the belt in, and lock it. Locked in, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Cover closed.
That's it. Now it's ready. You can cock it. It can be cocked even while on safe.
You immediately drop into that classic Browning squat. Oh yeah, I've seen that on TV before.
Sharp movement. In semi-auto mode, you need to push the handle fully forward. Yes, good. Then the central chambering of the round, it's chambered. Now you can take it off safe, and there will be a shot.
Does it cut through tree lines well?
Yes, very well. Trees go down.
Shot.
And for the next shot, chamber. Now you can chamber it with one hand. Chamber. And with the other hand, rotate it to automatic mode. Now you can press it in. This is automatic fire. From here on, it will cock itself.
Woo, this is extremely intense because it's a Browning. You can't imagine how sacred this thing is and how long we've been coming to this moment. Well, God be with us. That's pure power. And immediately, there's that unmistakable smell. Feels like something burned.
Probably not. That's just lubricant and powder gases.
God be with us. It jammed a bit because of that. Adjusting. All right, it'll be fine.
A round popped out. Adjusting. Let me take over for a moment. You can cock it. We're working?
Now that is a command.
And now we check again to make sure nothing is left inside.
Clear.
Trigger.
This was the program, What's That Barrel on Army TV? The legendary Browning M2. Thank you for your work and your patience. And thank you for your patience as well, Mr. Nord, a professional operator of this machine, as you can see, and an equally professional instructor. Thank you.